All right, next. Go, go, go.
Okay, right, next one. Let's go, Rose.
I've done
Go, go, go.
I've done a go.
He's a professional, you know. And welcome to the Côte de Rhone. Now, the Côte de Rhone is blessed with a wonderful set of natural resources, as well as a climate that allows environmentally friendly practices. We're currently at Domaine Rouge Bleu, so let's go find the boys with winemaker Thomas and find out more about it. So thank you so much, Thomas, for having us at your beautiful vineyards. I actually can't believe how spectacular the view is that we're looking out on right now. So as I understand it, the Côte de Rhone's climate makes it particularly well suited to environmentally friendly practices. And there's actually been a bit of an explosion in the area with environmental certification. I was wondering if you could tell us a bit more about what you do, what you're thinking of.
We are privileged in the Rhone Valley, especially in the southern Rhone. You know, we're pretty lucky with the weather. So the pressure for fungal disease like odium, mildew, of course, a lot less
much
than
lower.
other region, like say if you're in Beaujolais or Burgundy or Champagne, where it's sometimes a lot more challenging. I mean,
you've got the Mistral hairdryer blowing out all the weeds in the middle of the night.
Yes. So what the Mistral does is it chases the rain away. It pushes the clouds back down south, and it not only protects us from the rain, but also dries our vineyard. So it acts as a giant hairdryer.
Yeah.
So, for example, this year, which is a typical year, the pressure for disease is extremely low. There is probably a motivation, also a commercial motivation. Organic farming is now recognized, and there is a new public who's making the effort to maybe spend a bit more, be a bit more careful about what they buy, if it's more respectful of the environment. Working with nature, encouraging, protecting biodiversity seems completely natural to me.
Yes.
And it's doing anything other than that doesn't make any sense. So the motivation is to prove ourselves that nature is there to help you, and also to show some people that you don't have to over intervene, and that you can still be successful. Nature can be very cruel, but it's also incredibly rewarding. So I guess it's one of the motivation.
So are you organic then? Or
we are certified organic. We are practicing biodynamic, or at least working towards biodynamic farming. It has always been the philosophy that inspires us. There's zero additive except a little bit of sulfite. Using as little sulfite as possible is also a motivation. And I strongly believe in natural farming more than, we're talking about natural wine, but I think natural farming is very interesting. And to me, in my definition, it's using nature to help you. I mean, and where there is a solution which is natural, use this instead of using chemicals or using fertilizers or anything like this. I don't think there's enough of a lifetime to understand your vineyard and nature around, but when you live in a place like this, everything makes sense.
So having 3,000 kids. It's like kind of everyone, you sometimes go, that vine is not the right place. There's a you look at a vine, you think it's in the shadow of another vine, you think, it's not as well as it could do. And obviously those decisions must have been pivotal in you and your wife choosing this area, the low disease pressure, to carry out these things. Because if you're feeling passionate about them, you have to go somewhere where it's possible. And it's resurrecting whole regions which were not popular and making them brilliantly fashionable. And I don't think that the Southern Rhone has been more fashionable than it is right now, or Beaujolais for that matter. But so, I think it's wonderful that you're a part of this new new generation of people that it doesn't stop at a bottle of wine. Wine is just a small part of the whole story. Yeah. And there's two other things I want to ask you about. And if I may, can we pour a glass of wine while we're in this?
Please.
By all means.
I understand that you share two loves that I have. One of them is the grape variety Carignan.
Correct.
So
yes.
I thought I'd ask you about that first. I mean, I never understood why Carignan was never really certified as a noble variety, but Carignan has this incredible flavour, amazing sense of terroir, incredible drinkability, age potential. Tell me about how you use it in your wines.
Well, it's the reason why we purchased Rouge Bleu was because of the Carignan. We're lucky to have still two vineyards, one from 1978, one from 1965, made of Carignan. And what I love in this, I mean, in my previous life of tasting and selling wines from other wineries, I always love Carignan for its character. It's a very wild grape, but also for its freshness.
Yeah.
And when you live in a hot climate area like the south of France, Carignan is one of your best friends. The sad truth about owning a winery is A, you will stay at home a lot, and B, you're going to drink a lot of your own wine. So we wanted to make wine
Might as well make it drinkable.
fresher,
But you want to drink.
lesser alcohol than maybe the more traditional wine. Not just because people are asking for lighter wine these days, but also for our own selfishness. And Carignan will come and help you there. If we're talking about Grenache or golden grape, to harvest Grenache of really good quality, you're probably looking at 15% alcohol, even more, for the very special cuvées. This is one of the reasons why we blend with Syrah, with Mourvèdre to bring the balance down. With Carignan, you can harvest and make a red at 13% alcohol.
This is the first time I've drunk this wine. I think this wine's absolutely delicious.
Thank you.
It has a wonderful crunch of herbaceousness. That freshness really comes through from the Carignan. It's 12% alcohol, but it also has a texture that's very maritime. It tastes almost Provençal. It doesn't have that kind of hot alcohol Tavel character. It's lush. It's savoury and fresh at the same time. It's a cracking drink. Isn't it?
It's definitely a more Provençal style than maybe the more classic, or like you said, Tavel. But what's beautiful about Carignan, I think, is it has this character where sometimes a Provence wine will be very elegant and very good for aperitif, but so light that it's very hard to match it with food. Where this wine will age very well for 5-6 years, no problem, and it will pair more challenging food, no problem, because of the structure of the Carignan.
Is Carignan good for the levels of acidity?
Yeah.
Because that's showing through with
It's
this
some
wine.
acidity.
It's only 12%. You could have that extra glass.
Yes, it's
Almost gone.
So, but you touched on it earlier when you said about how old your parcels of Carignan are. The other thing I want to talk to you about, which is something which is very much in people's minds, and that's old vine, vieille vigne. And you have a very high percentage of old vines on this estate, don't you?
Yes, we still, I mean, it comes with its challenges, but when the reason we were able to purchase this winery 10 years ago is because the vineyard was very old and in need of a lot of attention. With old vines, of course, comes extremely low yield and missing vines, and they are not the most profitable. But as the yield will decrease, the concentration in the grape is going to increase and make it very interesting. So, as we tend to make our wine with our heart rather than our wallet, which is sometimes stupidity. We will look at the small production that an old vine parcel will give us, rather than how much more production we could be making. For example, the Mistral or Main Red is an average yield of about 18 hectoliter per hectare, so it's extremely low, but it's a parcel from 1955.
Wow.
The biodiversity is exceptional, the concentration is great.
Feet up, we'll pour on the floor.
So it's worth the sacrifice, I think.
Old vines are like an old people's home. They're full of stories, but you have to put in the work.
You do have
That's great. That is such a good
Such
analogy.
a brilliant definition of it. And,
the vines are just like
very
us. When
well,
they're
isn't
young and when they're old, old, they need a lot of attention. There is a period where the work is very minimal, but otherwise, yes.
It smells stunning.
Making a Côte du Rhône village, you need to have a minimum 3 grapes of Grenache and Syrah compulsory, plus what we call an improving varietal, which could be Mourvèdre, Carignan, Cinsault, any of those. And in the Côte du Rhône village, you're allowed up to 5% of white varietal.
So I think it's got a incredible detail. And I know our wizard cameramen here are going to flash a couple of general views of what we're looking at, but drinking this wine and looking at
That view is amazing.
It's kind of as good as it ever gets. So.
I mean, the length on that as well, the flavours are still going.
That's a banger.
That is it's got real depth to it. Absolutely beautiful. So sorry, what did you say was the oldest vines?
Oldest vineyard is from 1910. Yeah,
110 years
only
old.
Grenache, yeah.
Oak aging,
Yeah.
where your wines are concerned, do you use
So-
new oak or the old?
We
big
don't.
sort of-
This wine will see some oak, but we only work with neutral oak. The reason behind this is that we only work with native yeast. This wine comes from Sainte-Cécile terroir, which is Garrigue, which is by far the one that has the most complex biodiversity. You go and walk in the vineyard at the moment, you'll find wild garlic, wild roses. In the summer, you have rocket, you have chamomile, you have incredible biodiversity. And what's interesting about this is every vegetable produces its own yeast. Every yeast has a different taste. So the aim for us is to bring the terroir feel to really show the Sainte-Cécile terroir, and certainly not to disguise it. I mean, the reason why you'd use new oak would be whether either to bring a style to make an oaky wine,
you
or
want
if
the fruit to shine.
yeah, or if the varietal that you're working with is not smooth enough. But Grenache on its own is already very round, very elegant.
You are sort of preserving your beautiful old vines, like purely through organic and biodiverse sustainable practices. So thank you so much
Fantastic.
for having
Very
us drinking this
welcome.
with this amazing view, this delicious
Thanks to
wine.
your wife and your,
Cheers,
and your
cheers, cheers. So many cheers, so many cheers. Now, we really wouldn't be doing the Côte du Rhône justice without visiting the largest organic vineyard in the Rhone Valley.
To recognise this one, Cellier de Dauphin.
I think I've seen that before somewhere.
It's all over Britain. I've been drinking this wine and enjoying it for well over 10 years. And it's just fantastic value for money. I just adore it. But the scale this is made on, you wouldn't believe it. There's 2,000 winemaking families in 13 different co-ops, 12,000 hectares of vineyards, 39,000 tonnes of wine. After bulk sales, 30 million bottles of wine.
My word, that is a lot of stats.
That's a lot of stats. Alas.
Well, I've actually heard that 3,000 hectares are HVE certified of the Union.
Yeah, Union des Vignerons de Côte du Rhône.
Easy for you to say. And that is actually the official certification of environmentally friendly practices in France.
Well, that also covers packaging and everything, right?
Yeah, they're really good with their packaging.
Because I heard that they've taken away the plastic strap on the top of their wine boxes. So that's a gesture, right? I mean, what difference is that going to make?
It sounds small, but actually that's led to a reduction of 153 tonnes of plastic. I know!
That's amazing.
Say what?
Where's Andrew?
I think he's at a vineyard.
Should we go and bring him a bottle of wine?
Go
Let's
and
have
get
a
a
drink.
cheeky. Right, let's nick it and run.
Well, we finally found Andrew after scarpering with a few little samples from Cellier de Dauphin. Go on, open one now.
Pour them.
What we're going to do is try all 4 in a minute. See what
Wow.
we think.
Okay.
Okay, it's a speed tasting.
Yeah, and Cellier de Dauphin is a name and a label that's going to be familiar to almost all wine enthusiasts who drink French wine in the UK. It's a label that's so recognisable. And I, for one, have always been a massive supporter of this. I mean, it's one thing to go to this giant factory that produces 50 million bottles of wine or equivalent. But when it comes to just standing in front of a shelf in a supermarket, the wines all look the same. And I think these wines actually visually have quite good character. They're very well designed. The wines are incredibly well priced. Even in England, this is under £7. What do you think?
It's absolutely gorgeous.
There's nothing wrong with it. It's lovely.
I can really tell the Viognier in there as well.
It's crisp. It's got a nice bit of saline. It's a proper
Got
Rhone wine.
lovely blossoms in there as well. All right, next.
I've been wanting to say this throughout this entire programme. This is a colour that the French describe as pelure d'oignon, onion skin, which is the right colour.
Onion skin.
It's not peach, it's not salmon, and it's certainly not pink, and it's certainly not G-string cerise, right? It's kind of a lovely, warm flesh colour,
Well-known
which I
colour.
think is the colour that rosé should be, right?
Yeah, because often you see quite really pale rosés, but this has got a lot of character to it.
With some wines, when you sit on the shelf, they look so electric pink, you think, what is that made of, right? But this wine has a natural, beautiful flow about it. 15% Syrah, 85% Grenache. I mean, what's not to like?
Oh, it's absolutely gorgeous.
Right, Vin Rouge.
All right, how are we doing this?
This has got to be
Thank you very
easily the
much.
most successful Rhone red in Britain. These are all healthily under a tenner. This is the sweet spot for drinking now. You know, now it's £2.
This is like
whatever.
a little soft pillow
taste.
of red fruits.
It is.
It's gorgeous, absolutely delightful.
I mean, we've drunk some pretty special wine while we've been in this region, and that wine doesn't taste out of kilter with the stuff we're drinking. Yeah, this is like pimp my dauphin, okay, right? This is.
I love the label.
This is a
for all
Côte
this
d'Rhône
stuff.
Village. This is a tenner. And look at the colour. I mean, it's got more Syrah in it. You can see it. This is a serious wine. I think it won an award last year. Yeah, that's it. It's proper. It's got Syrah.
Oh, it's got some lovely spice there.
Hasn't it?
Really like rich and peppery and.
It's the real deal. It's got red licorice. You know, bootlace licorice, red
Yes,
licorice.
exactly that. What do you think?
It's got that sort of sweetness. You know,
It
we were
does.
talking about
Yeah,
sucrosity.
sucrosity. It has sucrosity.
Yeah,
It's
it's
kind
well
of,
made and
you know your bog standard supermarket French terrine or pâté, like a baguette, pâté, bottle of wine, lunch. It's perfect.
No, that's great. And I'm very impressed with our speed tasting. We also, I mean, this was absolutely incredible talking about their resources and everything they do to protect that. But also, we tried today.
Yeah,
Rouge
absolutely.
Bleu.
I mean, from the
Maine.
sublime to the ridiculous, these guys
Tried
make
the Maine Rouge Bleu.
gillions of wine, and then there's
Yeah.
this guy. And these wines, I remember when we were tasting it, how much this blew our minds, how good this wine was for money.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic.
It's fine wine money, or it's premium price, but I, for one, thought it was going to be nearly twice as expensive as it was, having tasted it.
Lovely wines and absolutely fantastic to be talking about resources of the Côte d'Rhône.
In two entirely different ways, the whole point of us being here, these two.
Well, cheers. And I think tomorrow we are going to touch on legacy.
Oh, legacy.
Legacy.
Touch
It's a
on
big one.
legacy. Okay, great. Cheers.